Good evening, all. We are here today to speak about Jefferson or Marcus Jefferson, a fifth grade student from Lincoln Heights Elementary. My name's Jen Young. I'm the special ed teacher. Mr. Adam,
Hey, I'm Mr. Adam. I'm Marcus's math teacher.
I'm Shane Perry. I'm a school psychologist.
I'm Hannah Carr. I'm the school's principal.
My name is Quintasha Robinson, and I am Marcus's aunt.
My name is Duke Taylor, and I'm the counselor at Marcus's school.
so now that we know everybody, let's begin reviewing Marcus's IEP. This is a draft. So that means anything we want to amend or just, we can do that live in this meeting. It is just drafted up so that we're not trying to write it all in one sitting because that can be a lot. I want to start off with extended school year services. What extended school year services is, Quintasha, is it would be used if Marcus were not reaching his goals, that we're seeing regression after Christmas break, regression after spring break. And that would be like doing 30 minutes once a week and working on those goals that we created, whether it's behavior or the math ones. But at this time, I feel like Marcus is progressing enough or has got some good progression that I don't feel like extended year services is actually necessary. How do you feel?
I feel like right at the moment we don't need extended services right now, but we'll come back to the discussion once school ends or closer to the end of school.
I'm totally game for that. That is a great, we can do that. So just because we're talking about it now does not mean that at the end of the year that we need to revisit it. That is 100% fine. So what I'd like to talk about is Marcus. Marcus is a fabulous kid. He's friendly, he's artistic, he enjoys music and storytelling. According to his recent diagnostic, which every kid in the school takes, we do about 3 of them a year. Marcus is capable of adding and subtracting numbers. He can solve word problems with measurements in same units. He can identify his shapes. He understands time. He can identify different money and currency. He's able to use a graphic organizer to do complex adding and subtracting. His reading's fabulous. He's got a fifth grade level. He's using, he's able to interpret figurative language, use metaphors and similes. He must be loving reading at home. You guys must do a lot of reading at the house.
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. You know, not everybody's a math person, not everybody's an English person. So when you've got a good strength in that, that's awesome. Can you tell us, Quintasha, about Marcus? What does he like to do? What does he like at home?
Well, he's very artistic. He's always drawing. He loves to paint pictures. He loves sightseeing, painting things that he sees. He likes to design cars and comics. He enjoys music and lots of hands-on activity. We have a lot of paint at home. We have arts and crafts. We have a ton of different things. And he's crazy about books. We have this bookshelf that his dad is building that he's getting ready to send to us to put in his room so that he can store all these books that he have all over my house. And he's a very strong verbal storyteller. He can tell a story probably with his eyes closed. And he's very cooperative and he's peer friendly with kids in the neighborhood and also from what his teachers telling me, the kids at the school.
What are your concerns academically for Marcus?
One of my major concerns is with math. I noticed that he is on a second grade level considering he's in the fifth grade. I want to know, what can I do at home? What can you send home for me to help with him on his math work? Is there something that we can do at the school? Is there like a tutoring services that you guys offer after school? Or is it something that he can do with maybe his math coach at school?
Okay. Yeah, we can totally discuss that.
Okay.
Okay. No, no worries. we'll come back to those things.
Okay,
Definitely.
because I know I've tried to help him at home, but the way that they do math nowadays is very confusing to me, and I know it's confusing to him.
I understand. I completely understand. Um, Mr. Shane, can you tell us about his evaluation?
Absolutely. So, we did a couple types of evaluations with Marcus. First, we did the Woodcock Johnson test of achievement. And what that does, it kind of gives us a full picture of the student and allows us to kind of see their strengths and weaknesses while giving an accurate picture of where they are academically speaking. And we also use the WISC, which is kind of the gold standard of cognitive testing. And it gives us a fuller picture of students' skills, including their verbal and nonverbal intelligence. And so you put them both together and they give us an accurate representation of the student's achievement in that educational setting, right? And so you're going to hear those words. And basically what we're going to tell you with these results is where they are grade level, whether they're average, below average, above average, wherever they are. And so I'm going to go through these test results with you and then share some kind of the strengths and weaknesses that we found. But basically on the Woodcock Johnson achievement test in math, he is operating at applied problems at a first grade, 5-month level, calculation, basically a second grade level, math fluency with addition and subtraction, quantitative concepts, and total math composite at about the second grade level. So what we're seeing with that is he's right about 3 grades below where he should be in math. And that kind of lines up with what your concerns were as well. Now in written language, it's a little bit higher in second grade. Spelling, writing samples, and fluency are all in that 2 to 2.2. And that would basically mean second grade, first month, second grade, second month as we do that. In his cognitive area, his working memory index was a little bit below average. And his processing speed the same. Basically, those kind of go together, and that's how quick he that's how much info he holds on to, and then how quickly he processes what's said to him or what he sees visually. So that's very much tied to math, like looking at a math problem, right? So it's very visual, and he sees the math problem, and so he's processing it a little bit slower than normal. Now, verbal comprehension. Or his strengths. He was average to high average in those. So he understands what's being said to him. In the visual spatial, looking at pictures and interpreting what's going on, that also kind of goes along with math skills too. So the things that he's really good at, for example, he can see those things and he comprehends what he is seeing. And so I think a lot of those line up with your concerns as well with math specifically. We did some observations from teachers. It shows that Marcus can kind of get where he needs to go and be where he needs to be at the right time. He works on reducing fractions. He doesn't do the math problems exactly like he was instructed. Sometimes he skips steps or and often will self-correct problems, but he doesn't check with the teacher or one of his classmates. When the lesson started, he's able to keep up with his teacher and followed along in his notebook and was engaged with the lesson, but did not want to answer or give solutions to questions or problems. When group work was offered, he did choose to work with a peer that he was comfortable with, and he gave his ideas, but his partner did most of the calculations. But he did share a diagram of how he would solve the problem. And he was given 3 problems in independent work out of 5. And he started to work on the first problem, but and he used pictures to solve it, but he had to be prompted and encouragement to finish the problems before lunch. And we see on another day that he entered the class slowly from recess, head down. He was kind of withdrawn. He wasn't really ready or in the mood to do math that day. And when the warm-up was given, he stared at the paper and just kind of said, "I forgot how to do this," and moved the paper. One of his friends offered to help, but Marcus really did not want the help that day. but basically when the teacher started giving the actual lesson, he sort of withdrew. He sat with his arms crossed. He didn't want to take notes, and it was time to work with a partner. He didn't want to work with anyone and kind of said he wasn't going to do it at all. And he just continued to withdraw even when the teacher tried to help. So she left him, teacher left him alone and checked on other groups. And independent work was really hard for him and said he did not want to even try. And so those were just a few things. So you see two different scenarios there, two different times. Who knows what's happening during that day or how he's feeling, and math can just be frustrating for anybody. So looking at his eligibility for services, I would say based on this evaluation, this data collection, observations, teacher reports, and other documentation, the eligibility team determined that Marcus does meet the criteria for special education services under OHI, which is other health impairment, and that's for ADHD, the inattentive type, and specific learning disability, and that just means in mathematics problem solving. And that is simply because he's 3 grades below where he should be right now, but we're going to keep working to get him where he needs to go. And we're going to use some steps and services and accommodations to get him there. So basically with Marcus's math fluency at a 2nd grade level, he shows proficiency with basic addition and subtractions and can complete calculations and problems when they're presented in isolation, but he has really a tough time applying those skills to more complicated problems and operations. So he needs some help with that. He's not able to multiply multi-digit numbers yet. And so that's kind of a grade level expectation in 5th grade. And then as far as behavior goes, with the characteristics of ADHD and with really struggling with the inattentive side of that, he's got a hard time keeping focused on and initiating tasks on his own. But with teacher prompts and visual cues, Marcus is beginning to demonstrate progress in starting tasks on his own and advocate for help for himself when he needs it. But what we want to do is get him to a point where that is natural for him and that he has supports in place to feel comfortable to do that. And we did talk about ESY, but based on progress right now, we don't think we need them. So we can always visit that later. Or Aunt, I'm so sorry. We can always visit that later whenever, if he continues, just like Miss Young said, if he shows any sort of decline or he kind of stagnates in trying to reach his goal.
Okay.
Let's see. So I'm going to turn this back over to Miss Young for now. And we'll keep going. And if you have any questions for me, I am here and I will jump in as needed.
Thank you.
Dude, I know Marcus has come visit you a couple of times throughout the year. Could you talk about what you're seeing with his ADHD and stuff?
With Marcus being diagnosed with ADHD, based on some of the observations, I've been able to gain some insight to the behaviors that he exhibits through lessons and activities. According to these observations, Marcus understands the classroom procedures following transitions throughout the school day. And this was supported by his ability to come in and immediately collect his materials on a day where he was in high spirits. But this procedure was affected based on the emotions observed during the arrival and transition portion of the observation conducted on November 11th, where Marcus was observed walking in the classroom in a withdrawn manner. This behavior led to Marcus having to be prompted to gather his materials and get prepared for the lesson. So based on this observation, throughout this day, he exhibited behaviors that showed refusal to complete work, refusal to participate in partner discussions and interact with his peers. And so In order to correct this behavior, I believe we can plan an emotional check-in before entering the class period. This allows Marcus to regather his emotions and, transition from recess back to the classroom environment. Additionally, based on the behaviors exhibited by Marcus, the ADHD can affect his progress in the general education classroom based on the amount of materials he was able to understand and complete. So on November 11th, we can see that Marcus needed to be prompted multiple times, skipped steps while completing assigned work, and chose to work problems based on the information he knows rather than going on specific chronological order that other students would. We saw that he bounced around from number 1 to number 3 and back to number 2. And when he figured he couldn't do it, we saw that he would go back to other problems. Based on this, I believe we should develop strategies that allow Marcus to build stamina as far as working and utilizing the techniques taught by the teacher. One thing I believe we could do to enhance his focus is chunk assignments and assessments that may seem too difficult. Because what I noticed on that observation is that Marcus was very withdrawn when he saw that he couldn't complete and understand the material given. So I believe if we are able to give Marcus maybe a reduced amount of work or chunking assessments and assignments, we'll be able to allow Marcus to place more focus on specific tasks rather than completing tasks that require a lot of steps. And so if we're able to possibly allow him to complete a reduced amount of work, have these emotional check-ins, I believe that we can kind of limit the behavior that we observed on November 11th of 2025.
Thank you. Adam, what are you seeing in math? How is Marcus doing?
How I like to describe Marcus is whenever he's here, he's here. When he's not, he's not. If he is in high spirits, he at least tries. When he's not in high spirits, he is withdrawn. No amount of prompting or asking him to try anything. Nothing works on those days. He can, the days that he's in high spirits, he does very well with adding and subtracting, understanding his money, his second grade levels, which I believe the second grade levels are the core levels. If you don't get it in second grade, you're not. So I can see him progressing to the standards that we're trying to get him to. Because I always say if you can count to 10, you can count to 1,000,000, and he can do that fine. He's lacking the conceptual understanding of transitioning 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 + 2 is 4 into 2 times 2. He doesn't, the conceptual understanding is not clicking with him, which I would like to start practicing more repetition. Miss Quintasha, how you asked for what can I send home? I'm actually planning on sending home a times table, which is your basic multiplication facts. And I'm going to be sending those home so that maybe you can help him practice and just repetition and commit it to memory. Because I believe once he gets the conceptual understanding of simple multiplication, that he will be able to grow to what we want him to do. Just as long as we can keep him engaged. That's the big problems I'm seeing out of him. And he likes to drift off into the crowd. I can see it in his face that he's understanding. Even if he gets something wrong, like if I ask the class in a number talk what they think the answer is or how would they complete this step, and another student answers it, he'll give a look like, I didn't get that, but then I understand how. So I go back to if I could get him there and get the high spirits constantly out of him, then I believe we could grow. And switching over his current understanding into the conceptual understanding of mathematics for multiplying and dividing. So
Thank you. I like those ideas. And I think with the check-ins that Duke's talking about, that's going to help and maybe even just some other stuff. So what that leads us to, Quintasha, is that we're going to start making some goals. Now he's had goals in the past. Like I said, we're still at a second grade level, even though we're in fifth grade. So we're going to kind of tweak this goal to see if we can do better. Um, we had a math goal last year and we had the behavior goal. I'd just like to see us, let's tweak it a bit. Adam had brought up the conceptual portion of multiplication, changing 2 plus 2 plus 2 is the same as 2 times 3. So he understands adding and subtracting, which that's the basics. He's got the basics. Now we've just got to build on it. So my proposal is that we work on the fluency of multiplying multi-digit whole numbers. Um, it's based on the fifth grade standard of 5.6. Um, and we work on building those skills. So Marcus's capability of adding and subtracting, but is great, but we need to continue developing those skills because adding 10 twos is going to take longer than just multiplying them. And helping him understand that multiplication is just adding faster. All right. And dividing is just regrouping that big number faster. Um, so this deficit impacts Marcus's ability to perform grade level computations within the general education standards and that curriculum. So Adam, help me out here. What do you think of this? Given direct instruction, guided practice and visual supports like a multiplication chart or even those popper thingies, the multiplication poppers to help him line them up. I can't think of what I'm trying to say right this minute. Well, Marcus will apply his knowledge of basic addition to help develop fluency in both multiplication and division, solving one and two digit um, division and multiplication problems. What do you think? Do you think that's good enough? Because we're making two goals. One's for division, one's for multiplication. Um, so does
Right.
that cover?
I do because I like the visual representations. He's good if he's got like the pictures that was noticed in the observations. If he's got visual representations, he can succeed in them. So I would like to do that, and there's all kinds of different visual representations we can do. For example, like one, I know he's good at money, and understanding how many quarters makes a dollar is division, and he's just not able to see that right now. So I think we can figure that out because if I say what's 100 divided by 4 and he's looking at 4 quarters, well, boom, there's the answer. I mean, there's all kinds of things I can do, but I like the visual organizers and representations for them.
Okay. So we'll have both a division goal and a multiplication goal. Does that sound great? Everybody kind of
Yes,
agree
ma'am.
with that?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then,
Yes, ma'am.
pardon me?
I think he was agreeing with us.
Okay. So I want to put in some benchmarks. So, and a benchmark, Quintasha, sorry, is where each quarter, every 9 weeks, we're going to send you home a report card, not just his gen ed classroom grades, but also his IEP progress. And so we want to see if he's meeting benchmarks, or do we need to revisit and have another meeting and readjust? So the benchmarks that I've got for both of these are that we can take 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9, but so does 3 times 3. There are 3 groups of 3, and that's the same as adding 3 groups and just changing it into the conceptual. We're looking at an 80% accuracy. I know that's high, but because we've got to also look at the division, can we reverse that? Can we take 12 cats and group them up into 4 groups? How many groups of 4 do we have? Can he do that visually? And then keep on working. So if we can get the single digits down, can we move on to the double digits? Can we get the um, maybe what 0 through 9? And then I know 10's an easy one, but 10, 11, 12 can get a little complicated. You got a lot of double digits in there, and then work on those. Work on there's a great graphic organizer for double digit multiplication, and using place value with it. I've been really impressed with how the kids can use that and working on that capability. How does that sound to everybody?
That
Like,
sounds good.
Yeah, I agree with that idea.
I agree.
All right. Dude, how we've seen that we're having some organization or, the ups and downs, having the inattentiveness, coming in slumped in, he's all or he's not type of deal. You had talked about some check-ins and so what do you guys think of a goal? Because when Marcus is got an off day, and I know we get off days, but I think we've got more off days necessarily than on days. And it makes that impact makes it hard for Marcus to focus and shift, especially from one activity to another. I know it's hard to come in from PE and recess. I get it. We just got to create some different things that, what are some things we can do? So what do you think of, by the time we renew Marcus's IEP next year, that he will be able to begin his tasks within 15 seconds, with maybe one or two prompts. I know we're going to probably start off with a whole lot more prompts, but maybe we can back it off that he's able to get his stuff. No, he walks into math and when he just sits down. Because I think he walks into math with you, Adam, because he's frustrated with it. He knows he's behind. So that's probably some of that attitude of, I don't get it. I don't know how to do it. Some days I'm willing to try, some days I'm not. And maybe with what we work on with the math goals will help with the focus. Okay, I can do this. So what do you guys think of, him just being able to sit down and start his task versus the avoidance?
I believe that with the emotional check-in, I believe that this will be just a very reasonable goal and something that we can measure over the course of the year and ultimately reach at the end of the year. Because the goal of these emotional check-ins is to kind of allow Marcus to regroup from PE and adjust his focus to math and kind of mentally prepare him, because we saw that when he wasn't mentally prepared before, he allowed this lack of preparation to affect his whole activity and his lesson. So I believe the emotional check-ins, it kind of prepares Marcus. And like I said, when he's in high spirits, we notice and observe that he went in there, gathered his materials, and was able to follow along with the class. But when he was withdrew from the school day, ultimately, we saw that it kind of affected his whole participation in class. So I believe the emotional check-in will allow us to reach this goal.
Okay. Let's make sure we put that in those accommodations. I'm about to hit that. That's why I want to help me remember to put those in the accommodations, please.
Okay,
Please.
sounds good.
Thanks. All right. So if we're good with the goals, I'm going to move on to services. Is everybody good with our goals?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So what we're going to do is, Quintasha, the part that I'm about to cover next is how we're going to service these goals in particular, how I'm going to interact and help Marcus work on this. Okay. So I'm going to meet with Marcus at least 60 minutes weekly to work on just the math alone. That means I'll probably end up pulling him out during PE or the elective that he's got, a couple times a week, and spend like 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes each time working on these graphic organizers and switching, adding and subtracting and multiplication and division. Okay. And then I will also pull him 30 minutes weekly to work on not just, I mean, besides checking in with him and doing these daily check-ins, but also going, hey, let's go through your backpack. Let's clean it out. Let's figure it out. Or even watching him and checking him, hey, I need you to do this. Will he do it right away? Or how many times do I need to remind him, hey, we're working on multiplication. Let's work on our fives. Let's do this. Let's work towards that. They kind of work together. I know that but we'll work the behavior in with the actual academic goal. Does that make sense?
It does.
And we'll do this in my room, not in the classroom. So these are minutes I'm pulling him out of the gen ed classroom. Okay. Accommodations. So we talked about, or we're going to work on having him a visual schedule so that he can see things. The hands-on manipulatives will help for the math. Preferred seating, timers. Work on him working for a good 5-10 minutes and keep progressively working longer on those math and other subjects because we all need it. Chunking the assignments. So when Mr. Adam gives him a 20 problem worksheet, we're not going to ask him to do all 20 in one sitting. We're going to chunk it up into different steps. Give him extra time to complete assignments. The graphic organizers we talked about. We're going to also do the check-ins with Duke to, if he, as he needs it, breaks during independent work, because I know that can get long. And also, what do you guys think of a peer helper for him? Adam, do you have some people in there that might be able to help him out?
I do, and he's got some preferred seating as well. That I've noticed, because I don't like to have assigned seats in my class. I just kind of like the freedom of it. But I've noticed whenever he gets by, there's a couple friends, and when he gets by them, he prefers them as a peer helper, as to get stuck with one of the randoms, and good for his friends, I guess. They are very high, so I could almost even just give them 3 designated seating for his preferred seating, and let him just be constantly by them too, so he can get his peer helper from either one.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other accommodations you think we need to add? Anybody?
I
You're
can't
good?
think of anything right now.
Okay, that's fine. So when it comes to test time, we've got some accommodations I want to have for that. So it allows him, even when we're doing those diagnostics, the state standardized testing, and it gives him time in everyday class testing. I want to give him extended time. I'm thinking time and a half would be good. Multiple choice questions. Let's do 3 options versus 4. And then with his writing, I was thinking maybe we'd limit, and I know this doesn't apply to you, Adam, but maybe on the other stuff, 1 writing prompt versus, the 3 or 4 that they're given. Maybe we can even do a formula sheet and some sentence starters. What do you guys think?
Okay.
Okay, does that sound good? Because these will, they can't do the sentence starters for the state testing, but they can do a lot of this other stuff for state testing. Okay, so when that comes into play, he is in 5th grade, so he has to do the state testing. They'll pull him out into small groups, and they'll allow him to have the extended time and the distracted-free environment stuff. Okay. He doesn't need any assistive technology. He doesn't need a personal support. So the last thing I'm going to cover is his LRE. What that means, Quintasha, is it's his least restrictive environment. What does that mean? So what that means is the amount of time that he is in the gen ed population versus being pulled out and with special education services. Okay. So what I'm doing is Marcus spends about 6 hours a day in the general education class. He is in general education classes during from 8:30 to about 10:26-ish, and he's doing science and PE. Um, then he would come to me after PE, and we would do our skills, our work, and then he'd go back for the rest of the day to do math, English, history, and recess. Okay, so I'm pulling him out for about 45 minutes at a time to work on his goals. And what that ultimately means is this. LRE is, once again, the least restrictive. I means I'm pushing him into the gen ed class as much as humanly possible. Okay. He would be categorized as an O1. What that ultimately means is he spends 80% to 100% of the time in the gen ed population. How do you feel about that? Do you understand all of that?
I do.
Great, because I know that is a lot of jargon and a lot of big words that I just threw at you. With that, I'm going to give you a copy of everything we've just talked about. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to need your signature on a few pages. I would like to cover, I know I forgot to cover at the beginning, so I apologize. I'm going to give you a copy of this special education rights. Do you understand your special education rights?
I do.
Okay, fantastic. Because if I need to, I can cover them. But there's a great little QR code here on this sheet that you can use. And if at any time you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Also, every one of us that were in this meeting is on this access of records. Okay, I'm going to pass it around and we're going to sign it. What that means is the following people have been in your son and your nephew's records. They have access to see the IEP, all this other stuff. And we have to do this for every meeting. Okay. I did get your meeting notice. Thank you for signing that and returning it. Um, and is there any other questions, comments, or concerns before I have Miss Hannah read over the minutes and notes?
Not at the moment. I just like to stay, keep me in the loop of everything that's going on at the school and anything that I need to attend, any meetings that need to be held. I want to be the one that's sitting in on the meeting and putting in input for Marcus's academic and functional needs.
Of course, 100%. You have my cell phone number. You know you can always reach out, and I will reach out anytime that we're having good days and bad days. I mean, I'm not going to just tell you all the bad stuff. So trust me, it is an open dialogue with me. If you have questions, and even if it's academically, if I don't have the answer, I'll go ask the teachers. I got no problem. So anytime you've got problems, or if you see Marcus has got some interesting or questions, concerns, just let me know. Okay. Feel free to email me or call me. I don't care.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
Then, Miss Hannah, will you please go over the meeting notes? Meeting
Yes.
minutes?
So we started off with extended services and agreed that we will remove those and revisit that towards the end of the year. And then we covered math along with his aunt's concerns, which is extended practice or maybe after school tutoring, more homework for math, which is what he is struggling in. We also reviewed his results from his achievement test and agreed that these results align with her concerns. And he is eligible for special education services. As for behavior, he struggles with focus, but responds really well to teacher prompts and support. We also talked about accommodations. He understands transitions. However, I think we agreed to implement some emotion check-ins before entering the gen ed room, reduced amount of work and task, visual schedule, timers, extended time for assignments, scheduled breaks, and preferred seating. Also, every 9 weeks, we will send home a report card that addresses benchmarks for his IEP and gen ed. We also covered conceptual understanding, times tables to practice at home, which also goes into her concerns for Marcus. Visual representations, fluency of multiplying, those are referring to his goals, division and multiplication goal. We talked about state testing. He will get extended time for state testing, Senate starters, formula sheets, and accommodated multiple choice. So instead of 4, he would get 3 and 1 writing prompt. And we also talked about LRE. He is placed as an O1, which means 80% of his time will be spent in special ed and then gen ed 100%. Vice versa?
Yeah.
Vice
Most
versa.
of his time he'll be spending in the gen ed setting.
80 to 100%. Okay. In gen ed.
So
Okay.
he's only in special ed services
80.
20% of the day.
80, yeah, okay. 80, 100. And does that cover everything? Does everybody agree?
Yes, thank you for clarifying the LRE.
Does anybody have any comments or concerns? Recommendations? No?
I think they were good and everything was covered.
All right. Well, then I'm going to conclude this meeting. And Quintasha, if you need anything, do not hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you
thank
for
you all
all of
for
you
your
for
time.
everything. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.